The new 930M Ag Handler is purpose-built to help you be successful in agriculture environments. Now, to help with that, let's take a quick walk around this machine with a focus on service and safety. Now, I'd recommend that you spin this bucket off at least once a week. And when you do that, take the time to clean any debris that might be hanging up on either the bucket or on our fusion coupler. You'll find that there will be some debris that hangs up in this location. We'd also recommend that you grease these wedges on the fusion coupler at least once a week. And we'd recommend that you grease this high rotation bucket pin at least once a day. In fact, we'd recommend that as a best practice, you grease the entire machine up to 20 different points at least once a day to help purge out any debris that might be hanging up on these pins. As you walk around the product, take the time to clean any debris that might be hanging up, specifically here in the lift cylinder area. So take the time to kneel down and clean out any debris that might be hanging up here. It's not going to cause any damage, but we don't want that wet material sitting here in this area. Now, as a friendly reminder, this is a crush zone area. So we would recommend that you put the steering articulation lock in before you do any additional service in this hitch area. Now, with the articulation lock in place, we're going to want to look in here and check the transmission fill sight gauge. And we're looking to make sure that the oil is between the minimum and the upper line, which it is. Now, when equipped, we'd also recommend that you go ahead and pull the side powertrain guard off and make sure there's no buildup of debris around the steering cylinders. Now, you're going to check your windshield washing fluid level right here. We want to make sure that's topped off. And if you ever do have an emergency, you can kill the engine right here from an emergency shutdown switch. Now, with the linkage here at a ground and level position, it's a good position to check your hydraulic level. And you're going to look at that hydraulic oil level is between the minimum line and the upper line. And here in this example, it is. So as we come back to the first of 3 large service stores, working in agriculture environments, we would highly recommend that you look here into the hotter side of the engine where the turbo and the exhaust manifold are sitting, and make sure there's no buildup of debris in this area. We'd also like to highlight that this 930M Ag Handler is a 24-volt system machine. So you can, through the standard jump studs, either host a machine for a jump or take a jump right here from these studs safely. Now, as a friendly reminder, a 24-volt system wheel loader, please do not use your skid steer or your pickup truck to try to jump start this machine, as those are 12-volt systems. We would also recommend that at the end of a shift, you turn off the master electrical disconnect, and that's going to fully isolate the machine. Now, further to that, we find that our engine coolant level can be seen right here from this side. And again, we're looking to make sure that is between the minimum and the upper line, which it is. Now, if either the coolant level or the hydraulic level need to be topped off, we're going to have to take a trip up here to go ahead and fill those. Now, I find that it's easier to fill those by going ahead and closing this first service door. So let's take a trip upstairs. Friendly reminder, 3 points of contact all the way up. We've got to grab across the top so that we can either top off our hydraulic fluid level, or we can top off the fluid level here in the engine through this shunt tank. Recommend that you do this when the machine is cold so that there's no hot pressurized fluid in this tank. Now, as we work our way around to the back of the machine, we would recommend that you take the time and clean off any debris which might be hanging up on this pre-screen. We'd also recommend that you take the time to clean anything that might be hanging up on this camera. Open it up, make sure there's no debris building up here. Clean these coolers, and we're looking good. Now let's go ahead and work our way around to the daily service points for the remainders. Now let's open the last of the 3 large lockable service doors. Now, as a friendly reminder, we would encourage you to turn the machine off before you gain entry here, as there are rotating components under this enclosure. Now, from this single point, we can put fuel in the machine. We can also see the engine fluid levels on this far side. We can belch out our engine air cleaner. When this needs a more detailed clean out, you're going to get an indication on the primary display telling you to come out here and do a full service. And to do the full service, you're going to undo each of these locks. You're going to pull out and clean this cap. We're then going to pull off our primary, and you can get second life out of these primaries. If you do blow them out, use very low pressure air to do it. Now, the secondary air filter cannot be reused. When it's time to change your secondary, you do need to replace it. You can't use it a second time. Now, from the same location, we can spin down this added service door, and we can check our water fuel separator. Make sure that there's no water. If there is, we can simply open it up and drain that water off. From this location, we can also check the oil. So we'd encourage you to pull the dipstick, wipe it, and then go ahead and stick it back in for a second time to check that we're between the high and the low marks, which we are. With all of those daily service items done and checked, we can go ahead and close this door, and let's go ahead and now make sure that our DEF, or diesel exhaust fluid, is topped off. On the primary display, it's going to tell you what your DEF level is. Based on what the gauge is telling you, you can use this little cheat sheet to know how much that you need to put in. On average, we burn about 2% diesel exhaust fluid relative to diesel fluid, giving about a 4-to-1 ratio. So every 4th time that you fill up in diesel, you're going to have to top it off with diesel exhaust fluid. So it's about a weekly change. Now, from this same area, we can also go up, when equipped, our windshield washing platform and check both the fresh air intake and wash our windows. So I find that it's easiest to break this mirror away. We can turn the quarter turns. We can open this up, pull out our fresh air intake for the cab, give that a little clean. And put it back in. Now we're here, we can also go ahead and wash the front windshield. So if we lean the windshield wiper away, you can take a rag and some cleaner, and from this single spot, we can clean the entire front windshield. Now, with our windows washed, with all of our filters breathing clean, with all of our fluids checked, the machine greased, we're ready to put this tractor to work.